What up, socialites, and welcome back to the Social Studies Podcast with me, Joe Dombrowski.
And me, Gaspare Randazzo.
I just announced my fall tour, so this is going to take a minute because the first time I'm saying it on the podcast, so bear with me. Okay. Oh, I have My Straight Friends, my show that I'm doing. It's in Seattle, by the way. It's at Comedy/Bar this Wednesday. Come. It's going to be so fun. My Straight Friends. Then next weekend, the last weekend of May, I'm in Pittsburgh. Then I'm in Denver. Then I'm in Tacoma filming a crowd work taping. Okay. Then I'm off for the summer. And then here comes my shows starting in September. This isn't announced yet, but I'll say it on the podcast. I'm doing a monthly show at the Comedy Store the first Wednesday of every month. I am doing My Straight Friends at the Comedy Store in LA, first Wednesday of every month. So that's implied moving forward. But starting November 12th, Irvine, California, San Jose, California, Sacramento, California, Charleston, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, Boston, Massachusetts, New York, Boston at the Wilbur, New York, I'm at Town Hall. Just side note there. Winnipeg, Manitoba, ain't never been. First time for everything.
Where's that, Canada?
Yeah.
Winnipeg.
Atlantic City, New Jersey at the Borgata.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Newark, New Jersey at the New Jersey Pacific Arts Center. Portland, Maine.
So you know Newark's right down the block from my house.
Chicago. And this one is not announced yet because it's a brand new club and it's not even open. But at the end, in the beginning of December, I'll be in Atlanta.
Oh, I know. That's cool. I know that place where you're going to be.
No, you don't. It's not open yet.
I know, but I know that they're opening it.
Well, how do you know that?
Because...
How do you know that, you sneaky little snake?
Because
how do you know that,
you sneaky
little snake? Maybe.
Yeah, I know. Don't forget, I got friends too. Okay.
Oh my God. Okay, get your tickets at thejoedombrowski.com. Where are you now?
I can't believe you're going to be at Newark.
Yeah, I'm going to be at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center.
Newark's like 20 minutes away from my house.
Oh my God. You trying to do a guest spot, big dog?
We'll see. I don't know when it is. I might not be busy that day.
Could you imagine?
I'll be in Philadelphia, Hershey, Pennsylvania, Point Pleasant, New Jersey, LA, California, just San Francisco, California, Long Island, New York City, Boston, Washington, D.C., Tampa, Cleveland, Detroit, Manchester, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville, apparently, I don't know, Atlanta, Staten Island, Freehold, New Jersey, Austin, Dallas, Columbus, Cincinnati, Allentown, Pennsylvania, Rochester, New York, and Manasquan, New Jersey. Manasquan is such a weird spelled word. Manasquan. It's literally that.
I'm super excited to hear about Manasquan, Freehold, and Pleasant Town or whatever.
Those are all in New Jersey.
Wouldn't it be funny if Pleasant Town was just the ultimate shithole?
It is. It's not called. It's called Pleasant Point, and it's not. I mean, it's like a Wildwood. You don't know what Wildwood. It's like a seaside hike. It's like a Jersey Shore. Pleasant Point is like a Jersey Shore, but like I think it got pretty damaged after the hurricane.
Apparently, New Jersey has this huge teachers convention that happens every year in Atlantic City, and my show, not so happenstancy. This was super strategic. My show is at the Borgata while that teacher convention is going on in Atlantic City.
Yeah, but that's a good thing.
So I think it's going to be off the walls, insane with drunk New Jersey teachers.
And when is that?
So
that's in the fall, right?
You guys, this has been the busiest 2 weeks of over 2 weeks of my life. I literally went from here. Okay.
Yeah, like start everybody at the process from the beginning of this, because it is interesting, like being on the road like you were, because like I'm even fascinated by it.
I went from here to Los Angeles because I was a comedian at a gala for a really awesome organization called 826LA, which basically does literacy programs in schools around Los Angeles, which is pretty cool. Then I went from there to a full weekend in DC, then came back to LA for the Netflix as a Joke Festival, which was absolutely insane. Then went from there for 7 shows in Calgary. I don't even know how I still have a voice. Anyway, couple highlights of this. 1, my shows in DC. Met Gaspar's brother, Joe, who came to my show with his wife. Not only did they come, they sat front row right up in my shit. And I didn't crowd work them, but
Joe
I
never
did.
met them before, for the record.
Yeah. But I didn't crowd work them. They came back before the show, so I knew who they were. And I kind of like messed with them a little bit at one specific part, which you'll have to come see. I'll tell you which part right now, Gaspar.
I know. You told me.
Let me tell you guys this. I think if you have Randazzo in your blood, you are just so good at talking. I was in, and you're also super nice. Your brother and your sister-in-law were so fucking cool. Afterwards, I was like, oh, I'm going to meet a friend at her house. They're like, oh, we'll drive you. I was like, oh, great. But then I get to the car. They had to like take car seats out. I was like, you guys are totally Uber. They're like, no, like we'll fucking drive you. I was like, okay, this is great.
Anything for them to stay away from their family.
The drive from the club to my friend's house was like 10 minutes long. And it was the two of them out the window being like, oh, this is this statue, and this is this thing, and this is that. And they were talking over each other to like explain things to me faster. I was just laughing so hard because I was like, it's genetic. It's genetic.
But meanwhile, they were like, yeah, it was just a regular ride. We just drove him. They were like, he was super nice. Like, to them,
we
that was
we were
so
constantly having 3 conversations at once. It was so cool and so nice to spend time with them. It was great.
No, and they are great, but it's so funny because like when people like come over for dinner, I remember like when we were younger, people would come over for dinner and they'd be like, oh, like this is crazy. Like everybody's just talking one over another, louder, getting louder and louder. And they're like, how does anybody get it? I'm like, I don't even notice it at all. Like to me.
Seriously? They told me a story about you, which was hilarious. They were like, oh, you think we're talkers? They're like, Gaspar's a talker. I was like, oh, trust me, I know. I talk to him almost every single day. And they said one time you were telling them a story and you started the story when you left some space. You told them the whole drive home. You told them all back at the house getting ready. And they said they were getting ready to go to sleep. You were at the foot of their bed still telling them the story. And they had to stop you and say, Gaspar, can we just do this tomorrow? And you got all sad and you were like, oh, well, I guess.
Okay, for the record, I was like 17. I was a baby. I know exactly what they're talking about. They had just met. That was the first time I ever met Jess, my sister-in-law. So we were just talking, and she's a talker. Like, did she tell you about the time I wrote a song for her? One time I wrote a song for her, I just played guitar, and they're like waiting for the words, and I go, and there's no words because Jess said them all already. And that was the end of the song. So like, she's the talker. I'm like, I talk a lot. My brother talks a lot.
Your brother is fascinating. He was telling me about things, his life and what he does. I was just like, no fucking way. It was so cool. It was just awesome to be with them. Anyway, shout out to the Randazzo fam, the whole Randazzo
it was cool.
fam.
I'm happy you guys got to meet and hang out.
Me too.
Like, it was cool. And Joe was super nice because my sister, my brother bought tickets, and Joe's like, why would your family buy tickets? And then he's like, to give him my phone number. As soon as I get to the club, tell him to come backstage and I'll buy them a drink or whatever. Like, you know, it was very sweet. So thank you for taking care of them.
I couldn't believe that they bought tickets. Never again. Okay, so then I go, this is one last funny thing. Then I want to hear about your week too. Gaspar, I went to Los Angeles, right? Well, before I went to DC, I had to do, this is common, like a gala or a gala, depending on how fancy you are.
What's the second word you said?
Gala? Some people say gala. Some people say gala.
A gala.
A gala, sure.
What did you call it the first one? A gala?
Gala.
Gala.
A gala is how you say it in Italian.
What did they serve there? What kind of food?
Okay, so here's the thing. This gala, what do you call it?
I'm going to the Met Gala.
Gala. Okay, this gala is so it used to be like typically what you would think, like a good, like a stuffy, very like dress uppy, blah, blah, blah. And it was not that. They changed it. So this year it was kind of like in a little outdoor garden space. It was just business casual attire. Like people weren't in suits and tuxedos and stuff. It was pretty good. And the food was actually like upscale tacos. And then they had like various tables all over the place for like charcuterie and stuff.
Were you thinking about how to say the word? You know what's good? Like I love like a taco bar. I love like all that stuff, charcuterie. But you know what
I can see it in his face.
I really like, you know, when you have like a busy schedule and like it's time to outsource some of those annoying tasks like cooking. Well, Factor's no mess meals will save you tons of time. Heat and eat in just 2 minutes. That's
heat and eat, baby. Heat and eat.
Heat and eat sounds like something you might have did at the gala. The food is always fresh, never frozen, similar to the gala. And each recipe is made by a chef approved, probably in Italian, by a dietitian. So you know it's going to taste good and be good for you. So I know, like me, when I'm not at galas and hanging out in the school cafeteria, I do eat Factor meals. And you actually know I do. I love them. And my wife loves them. She's been eating the salmon every day. Salmon's good for your brain. So I'm trying to make her eat more because her memory sucks. So we are trying to eat better. They are delicious. They're easy. Like on nights we come home from baseball, it's late. We just make a bunch of Factor meals. So from breakfast to dessert, Factor keeps you fueled up all day long. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake. Like me, you know, I'm building a summer body now, and avoid meat or simply eat a balanced diet. They have dozens of meals to choose from each week and more than 60 add-on items. Try them and find your favorite. Head to factormeals.com/socialstudies50 and use code socialstudies50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code socialstudies50 at factormeals.com/socialstudies50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box while your subscription is active. So tell me more about the gala.
So we're at the gala, and
I don't think I ever said the word 50 that much in one.
You literally were just like 50.
50.
Okay. The gala was good. Now, part of it, it's like, it's the point of it is just to make a bunch of money for the organization.
Okay.
So it's a lot of rich people. It's a lot of people who just have money to donate. Like, that's what it is. There were like directors there and famous people there and like people with these huge jobs. Like it was just like insane. Those situations can get a little stuffy. And then they like brought me in to do comedy. Before I go up there, I was like, hey, any like guidelines here? They're like, no, do your thing. And I was like, okay. Are you sure? They're like, yeah, just like go up there and do your thing. I'm like, okay. Well, newsflash, get to my colonoscopy joke where I'm not going to ruin it for you, but I talk about getting a colonoscopy and I say some pretty inappropriate things. But the room was like, and then like people were laughing and it was like half uncomfortable laughing, half like real laughing. By the end of my set, I had these people dead. The host like couldn't even continue her speech because she was like still laughing so far. Every single speaker who had to go up after me made some reference to, if we've learned anything this evening, it's to get a colonoscopy. Just like shit like that. It just kept coming up over. I thought for sure that I was going to get emails that were just like, this ain't it, right?
They were laughing, he said.
The founder of the organization actually emailed me and said it was like the perfect touch of the evening. It was exactly what we need. I loosened people up to get the bidding started. So then, Gaspar, there's an auction. And they're auctioning off like trips to Hawaii, just like crazy shit, right? Well, they auction off all these things. And the last one is a trip to Palm Springs, free hotel stay, right? But the auctioneer was like, okay, we're going to change it. We're going to do a game. How this is going to work is every time you put your hand up, it's It's $100. Whoever wins this will win it for $100. But the catch is once you put your hand up, it's the last person to have their paddle raised that gets it. So, for example, if you raised your paddle and you said $100, and then I raised my paddle and said $100, I'm getting it because I raised my paddle after you, but they're still keeping your 100.
Oh, they keep your 100 just for saying it.
Right.
Must be nice to be rich, but go ahead.
It went on forever. It went on
because
forever.
All you're doing is throwing in $100 gamble. But
right.
Did people, but
yes.
Like I would have been like, I'm not going to raise my hand till the end.
So listen. So people are going
how does
nuts.
This end?
People are going nuts over this thing, right? Like this one woman must have bid like $3,000 to $5,000 because she just kept putting her 100 up every time to like try to get it
up again
over and over, and every time you do it, like you have to give $100, right?
Oh, I thought it was just like I raise my hand, I bid 100, then someone else bids it, their 100, and I'm out.
Right, but then you can bid again, and now it's yours. And you just did 200, and they did 1, right? So I'm like, this is crazy, Gaspare. It goes on forever. They must have made over $25,000 on this thing so far, and it went on so long that finally the auctioneer goes, next person to put their hand up, it goes for $200, and they get it. Boom! I put my hand up. I got it for $200, and then I stood up and I said, if anyone bids against me, you're homophobic. And I sat down and I got it. I won.
So wait, now you're going
I
to
literally
Palm
watched this woman pay like $5,000 for nothing. And then I was just like, me. And I got it.
Wait, so now you're going to Palm Springs? Is
for
that where
$200
for in Florida included. Or LA?
There's Palm Springs, Florida?
I learned recently there's Palm Springs, LA. I didn't even know.
Oh, I didn't even know there was one in Florida. This is Palm Springs, California. Just outside of Los Angeles. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. No, Palm Springs is
at
like
the Ace Hotel. Ooh.
Is that a nice place?
Yeah.
Airfare too, or just the hotel?
The whole thing, baby.
The whole thing?
Can you believe
you got it for $200?
Isn't that crazy? And then this woman who was like bidding nonstop, she came up to me after. She's like, you stole that from me. And I was like, well, it went to a good cause. So feel good about yourself.
What are you going to do? Be mad? I mean, you really thought, was she actually mad or was she just like joking?
It was very tongue in cheek.
Oh, well, tell her you'll never see her again. So it's not a big deal.
Yeah, seriously.
Be like, see you in Palm Springs, bitch. So anyway,
the Netflix is a joke. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm dominating the podcast.
No, I was just about to ask you. Tell everybody about Netflix is a joke because that's kind of a huge deal.
So, blah, blah, blah. Netflix is a joke festival. Literally every comedian in the world's fucking there. It's crazy. It's so hard to sell tickets because there's just like gigantic shows happening at the same time. Like it's just huge, right? So the shows went well. Everything was good. All the sets I did were great. Blah, blah, blah. Here's the highlight. I went to the Comedy Store almost every single night just to like hang out and see friends and blah, blah, blah. At one point, I'm in the back bar of the Comedy Store, and just to put into perspective how insane it was, and Gaspare, I know you don't follow comedy like this, so you probably will know two of these people.
They all are. You texted it to me. I looked them all up.
All around me. I looked them all up. All around me, like literally within arm's reach. Nate Bargatze.
Know him.
Shane Gillis.
Know him.
Nikki Glazer.
Know
Jimmy Carr. Sebastian Maniscalco. It's Bert Kreischer. And then Post Malone.
Now,
just right there in front of me.
I actually saw videos of it. Like I saw videos of him hanging out with all of them. It's funny. I was like, oh, I should have looked to see if you were in the background.
Yeah, it was just like.
Was Post Malone cool? Was he like with security?
Didn't talk to him. Oh my God, I didn't talk to him at all.
Why not?
At all. I didn't talk to any of these people until it was like, unless I was in a conversation and these conversations merged together, I wasn't going to like go up to anybody and be like, hey, what's up? Because it's just like.
You don't do that there?
No. And it happened to me one time with like a comedian who's like, I'm not going to say who, but like not at that level, but I'm like a fan of or whatever. And I just turned and I was like, oh my God, hey. And they were like, hey. And I was like, oh, crazy night, right? They're like, yeah. It's like, I'm just Oh, I'm just so drunk. I didn't know what to do.
I'm just like,
I didn't want to be like
comedy.
right. I didn't want to be like, oh my God, hey, you're this person, and here's all these things about you that I already know.
Yeah, they I heard a friend of mine was doing a show and Jerry Seinfeld jumped on the show. Like literally like jumped him. Like he was about to go on stage next. And then the club was like, slow your roll. Seinfeld's about to jump on. So he's like, oh, all right. And he said like Jerry Seinfeld like walked in with like 5 bodyguards, like was like, hello, everybody, shook everybody's hands, walked on stage, did his thing and walked right out. Like it was like very business. It wasn't like, he's like, there was no like hanging out. Like I wasn't going to be like, oh shit, like comedy legend. But like, I feel like you were at a party with them. You could have talked to them. At least Post Malone.
I definitely wasn't going to talk to Post Malone. But
I hear he's like the nicest guy.
Really?
They say he's super nice, really good to fans.
Really?
Supposedly.
Oh, that's cool. Jimmy Carr was actually really cool. I was like, because he just released a special like a week prior to me meeting him. And I was just like, hey, Jimmy, just great special. And he goes, I've been telling people that. And I was like, I just thought that was I thought it was a very suave
response.
Response. Because it was like, yeah, I know. He was like, I know who I am.
Yeah.
I know this isn't weird that other people saw it. So I'm going to like make a little joke in light of this. He probably said it to like 900 other people when they say that shit. But I was like, oh, I like that.
90 podcasts right now are all saying this.
Right. I like the way he handled it. Because sometimes when you're just like, oh, thank you so much. It really means a lot. It's
Yeah, it's like redundant.
Sometimes it sounds disingenuous. But he was just like, I've been telling people that. But I also liked it too because he's like, yeah, I put it out. It was great. And I know it was great, which I appreciate.
Like, what's up, bitch? Who's he? They, I actually, wait, so that was LA. Then you went to Calgary for 7 days, for 7 shows.
Yeah.
How was Calgary?
Insane. Calgary's got a huge Serbian population. So I ate a lot of Serbian food. There's this food called like shalapi or shavaki, or I forget what it is. It's basically like tiny little sausages, like in a fluffy bun of some sort. I don't know. I can't even describe it.
It's
good
sausages in a bun?
Yeah, but like multiple sausages in like one big bun.
Stop describing your Adam and Eve fantasy.
True.
But
yeah, crazy week. How have you been? What's up?
I was in Hershey, Pennsylvania. So first off, I was in Pennsylvania. I was doing this show. I get to the lobby of the show and this guy stops me and he's got like, this show was like in the woods. And this guy stops me. There's the club's in a hotel and he's got a cooler full of beer. And he's like in the lobby of the hotel and he's like, hey. I was like, hey. And he's like, want one? And I was like, no, thanks. I'm good. Like, I don't want a beer from your cooler in the middle of a hotel. So then he's like, are you here for line dancing? And I'm like, no, I was just here to watch.
Didn't that happen last time you were there too?
No, there was line dancing last time. Yes, but I was on the phone with you. I was telling you all this. Then, so I did the show, met some really cool people, hung out with them after, like went to the bar with them, whatever. It was really fun. The line dancing, but there was this guy there and he's like, I got to talk to you. I don't care. He's not listening to the podcast, so I could give a shit less. So he's like, I got to talk to you.
Know.
He's like, so he's got one eye and he's got a neck brace on. He was 88, right? And he's like, you're from Brooklyn, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I used to be John Gotti's driver.
Oh.
So I'm like, oh. And then he's like, yeah, I'm out here in the woods now. He's like, because they wanted to bury me out here in the woods so that I didn't talk and I didn't do this and I didn't do that. Then he's shaking my hand. He's got the tightest grip I ever felt. He's like, feel that grip? I'm 88. And I was like, I feel bad for your penis. Because I didn't know what to say. I was just
What'd
like,
he say?
He laughed. And then he's like, yeah, I used to choke people out and kill people. Like, he was just like this random ass guy. Then he's like, my wife's away right now in China. She told me I could have a little hanky panky while she's gone. And I was like, all right, good luck. And then he's like, are those your friends over there? Like the people I was talking to, he's like, I'll give you $300 for that girl in the black shirt.
That's so wild.
I was her fucking pimp. So I was like, yeah, pay me up front. No, I didn't say that. I just laughed. But Joe, I did want to talk to you about something. I watched a show this weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. It's called The Contestant.
Okay.
Did you know about it?
I don't.
All right. You have to pay attention because it's going to be confusing.
Okay.
In Japan in 1995, this is all true. It's a documentary about the show. In Japan in 1995, they took a group of people and they put them in a room. They were like, you're trying out for similar to my show, basically. They were like, you're trying out for a show. We're not telling you what the show is. They all tried out. The tryout was a lottery. You just picked a thing. And if you were picked, you were picked. So they tell this guy, we are locking you in a room, right? You can leave at any time. We're locking you in a room and you have to, here's a stack of 1,000 magazines and here's thousands of postcards. You're going to write postcards to the magazines. Remember, in 1995, that was like a thing where you would write into a magazine and you have to win $1 million worth of prizes.
Wait, this is true?
It's a true story. It's the documentary.
It is a documentary.
It's a documentary, but they show the show and then they show the guy today talking about it. So they tell the guy, you have to win $1 million worth of magazine prizes. Okay. So like the guy's like, okay, cool. And then they're like, take off all your clothes. And he's like, what? And he's like, they're like, you're completely naked. You have to win like food. You have to win clothes. You have to win whatever. And there's cameras all around the room. And they essentially told him that we are only going to film. We're filming 24/7, but we're just going to take highlights of it. Right. So it starts off with just highlights, but the show became so successful that they did it like a Big Brother. And they just live ran 24/7 cameras on this guy while he was naked and he's just writing postcards. So like after like a month, he finally gets something and it's like a bottle of water. And he's like, but like he was like, like you never watch a Japanese show and they're just fucking crazy. Like shit's just happening. Like they're screaming, fireworks are going off. Like people are getting shot with cannons. Like, so he would like go crazy. Then like finally after like 2 months, he won rice. He like was heating up the rice in the water bottle over the stove. Like he was just being resourceful. He like won dog food. He was eating the dog food. You could see him literally deteriorating. He looked horrible. All this stuff. I don't want to ruin it for you, but I will tell you this. He ends up being in there for 13 months. He has zero clue that the show is live streamed. He didn't know that it was ever even being filmed. Like he thought it was going to be then edited and everything. So he just stays. He had no idea that he was like the biggest phenomenon in Japan and he was just
it was a Japanese thing.
It was in Japan. Yeah.
Oh.
So this guy is literally, and the director of the producer of the show is like,
was he a Japanese guy?
Everything is Japanese. The whole show is Japanese. It's in Japan. Like so then they had a person whose job was to move the sensor bar and the guy's face was long and they were saying he looked like an eggplant. His face was eggplant shaped and they started putting an eggplant over his penis whenever he would move. And they say that's where the eggplant emoji comes from.
So, why would they blur out his face?
No, his penis.
Oh, you said half of his face was blurry?
No. His face was long and it looked like an eggplant. So they would put an eggplant emoji over his penis instead of a black sensor bar.
Interesting.
And this guy does this for 13 months. Just lives in a room. And like people argued that it was torture. People argued that the producers abused him. And the producers like, it was very well known. The door is unlocked. Just leave whenever you want. The show's over. There was no prize. He didn't even win a prize.
Wait, Gaspare. They told him straight up, they're like, you can leave at any time.
Mm-hmm. They're like, you can leave. But he said that he basically developed Stockholm syndrome. And then it was like really sad because when he came out, he like didn't know how to like interact with humans because he was in isolation for so long that it was like, he just was like.
How did he interact with people?
Do you want me to tell you what ends up happening?
I do.
All right. Here's a little spoiler. So if you don't want to know, fast forward a few minutes, okay? In the end, he was writing in a journal the whole time. And he said, I can't wait to have Korean barbecue when this is over. In the end, they blindfold him and they bring him to Korea. and they're like, here's the Korean barbecue that you wanted. So he's all excited. He eats it. Then the producer comes back out. It's all filmed. And he's like, blindfolds him again. And he's like, I got to take you to the next spot. And they bring him to another room in Korea. And they're like, the name of the show is My Life in Prizes. And he goes, now we're filming season 2, My Life in Prizes, Korea. And the guy's like, wait, what? And he puts him in Korea. And the guy argues with him for like 4 hours. And he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm really sick. Like, I'm really fucked up. And he's like, you can leave, but like, this is what you're going to get famous. Like, you'll be famous, blah, blah, blah. And he doesn't speak Korean. So he has to learn Korean while he's there. He's reading a Korean dictionary, writing letters to these companies to win prizes. He stays another few months and does it. Then in the very end, they blindfold him again. The producer's like, you're done, you're done. They take him and he's in another fucking room. So he starts crying and he's like, I can't do this again. I can't do this. All of a sudden, all the walls in the room fall. They all collapse. And he's in a live fucking studio, like a Radio City Music Hall with everybody there, a live audience with host. And he's completely confused because now he spent 16 months in isolation. He's hysterical crying. He's completely naked. The crowd's cheering. He didn't know that they knew he was famous. Like, he didn't know he was famous. So he's just like, why are these people here? Like, he couldn't formulate sentences.
Was it so sad to watch?
It was sad. It was just sad. And the hosts were like, yeah, you did it. They're like shooting streamers in his face. And he's like, what did I do? Because in his mind, in his mind, they were filming a show that when it was all done was going to then be chopped up and edited. He didn't know he was famous for 2 years of everyone watching his life, like the Truman Show. It was really sick. And like, of course, then I said to Melissa, I was like, he knew he was being filmed, but he thought it was going to be edited. I was like, but in all seriousness, like when he got out, like his penis probably didn't even work anymore. Because like when you're in isolation that long, and Melissa's like, that's what you took away from this whole thing? Because like, if you know people are watching and filming you, what are you doing? You're not, your mind, you could see his mind was going. You could watch him go crazy in real time.
So why would his penis work? Also, Gaspare, that was one of the...
What?
That was one of your most...
What?
That was one of your most outlandish things you've ever done on the podcast. You took us down this insane journey of this show. And I'm thinking you're going to tell me you found this like moral message and you go, it's crazy. I was thinking when he got out of there, his penis didn't work. Like, what the hell? You are insane.
Just think about it.
Why wouldn't his penis work?
Okay.
Wait, I do have a question. So he's 24 hours on camera?
It was live streamed 24/7.
Where did he like shit and stuff?
I don't even know if he pooped because like he didn't.
Did he masturbate? Did they like see it on camera?
So there was a bathroom that he was allowed to go in, like that was off camera, but majority of his day, like what's he gonna just sit in the bathroom? And he was eating dog food. He was eating
so sad.
Rice. Like one point he won like protein shakes that came in like a metal foam. So he drinks the protein shakes and then he's like, oh, and he like would report everything to the camera. So he'd be like, I have an idea. And he like put water in the protein shake tin, put the rice in it, and then kept it nearby the stove. And after boiling it for like 8 hours, because he couldn't put it on the stove because it would have melted the plastic, after boiling it for like 8 hours, it finally was like semi-cooked rice. You know what I mean? And he was like, oh, and like he would like make all these crazy sounds. He was nuts.
So sad. He was not nuts. The show was nuts for doing that to a person that's sick.
You got Google the guy though. Just look at him. But
did his penis work? Great.
Okay. The logic behind the penis work. Let me just explain it.
What's the show called again?
My Life in Prizes.
Okay.
Is it coming up?
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
So he was an interesting looking guy, and he talks about it, how he was like bullied his whole life because of his looks. And the show said that the lottery couldn't have drawn a better person because he was so outlandish. he was, he was so outlandish looking that it made the show even crazier, you know?
That's sad. That's so sad.
All right, my logic behind the penis thing was like, imagine for 16 months, like you're not drawing off of anything. Like you're not outside, you're not living your life. So like what
But he
exactly?
actually like grew up to be like a good looking guy.
Well, what happened was after he climbed Mount Everest to prove to people that like don't let like one mistake in your life ruin you, basically, because he considered this whole thing a mistake. Like this was like a torture mistake for him. Like his family was very embarrassed by it because like he wanted to be a comedian and an actor, and then his parents were like, okay, and he's like, I'm gonna go to Tokyo to pursue my dream, and they were like from a remote village. So it's like moving from like Iowa to New York City, you know? So they were like, oh, like don't, whatever you do, just don't get naked. That's what his mom said. And then like the first thing they do on the show is rip his clothes off him.
Was his name Nasubi?
Yeah, Nasubi.
This is so sad. Oh my God.
And like they interview the producer and he's like, people say I'm like a producing god. He's like, but I'm actually the devil. He's like, I really
that's
fucking
wrong.
ruined people's lives. Like,
That
and
is
then they like
so messed up.
made them meet years later. And like Nasubi's like, I fucking hate you.
He didn't even know the director of this thing.
No, like he like after the show was done, years passed by, they like reconnected, and he's like, you ruined my life. Like this,
his nails grew so long.
Oh, it was insane. Dude, he's literally, I will say this one part, like
he's like grabbing the rice and crying.
Yeah, because he was eating dog food.
This is crazy. Those people should go to prison for doing this.
But like the guy's argument over and over again was like, you can leave whenever you want. Doors open. Just go. So like that's a hard one, you know? Like when I was on the show, if I decided midway through, like I'm not filming anymore, Netflix would have had to have let me left, right? I mean, it can't just be like, no. Like I would have left, you know? Like no one had me there at gunpoint. So like, I know it, dude, it's sad. You actually should watch.
I don't know if I can.
Like,
it's wrong.
No, like just like fast forward through like when he's just in there, like it's almost funny, but then like you hear him talking now and you're like, oh, this is fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah, like I'm at the part right now where the walls fall and he's in front of an audience and he's just like, oh my God.
Yeah, like I look at his face, like they're zooming in on him and he's just confused as hell.
He
was like a feral animal now released into.
This is wrong. I don't like this at all.
I can see like how at the time watching it is probably comical, you know?
Well, also like talk shows at that time were sort of like crazy, like Sally Jesse Raphael and the Tyra Banks show. And like, God, there was other ones too. Jerry Springer, Maury Povich, like these shows like did like crazy stuff. Like they would be like, oh, you're scared of parrots? Well, here's a woman with 29 macaws on her arms and just like, you know, stuff like that. Kind of crazy.
I mean, it is wild to think like Jerry Springer, but you know Jerry Springer was fake, right?
What?
Jerry Springer, I think, turned out that it was fake. They were like they were like going into like strip clubs and like going into places and being like, hey, you want to be famous? And like putting these people on. Like I think a lot of it was scripted. Let's look it up.
Oh, weird. I don't know.
What?
In the meantime, I have an email brought up.
Oh, yeah.
Ready for it? Here we go. Hey, this one's called Wipe That Ass with 2 Z's.
Oh, and I have one from the Patreon also.
Great. Perfect. Hey, Joe and Gaspare. I listen to your podcast every week. Y'all crack me up. I grew up downriver, although I downriver is a Michigan thing, Gaspar. I grew up
Oh.
downriver, although I live in North Carolina now, and I love all your Michigan references. Well, shout out to you, girl. Shout out to you. Before this week's episode took a hard turn, we discussed snake penises and giant meatballs. Your wipe your ass email reminded me of a story. My youngest child was in kindergarten last year. He is the kid who would hold his number 2 until he got home, much like Gaspar. One day, you don't poop in public, right?
I do. Anywhere.
You
My
do?
kid and my wife don't.
I don't.
Why, you don't?
One day, no, it's very hard for me to do that.
I could go literally anywhere. I could go in a bag in a garage. There's context to that, but I'll just let it go.
Oh, God. A bag? A bag? A bag?
Just
What
go
kind
on
of
the
bag?
floor of the garage.
What kind of bag, Gaspar? What kind of
Plastic
bag?
Like they clean up
Were
dog
you
shit.
locked out? Were you locked out?
Just a long story. Anyway. My
youngest child was in kindergarten last year, and he was that kid who would hold his number 2 until he got home. One day, his teacher called and said that he had an accident, and I should probably come get him. I assumed it was a number 1 accident, but still came to the school. I arrived, and he was wearing his extra clothes, and the teacher informed me that he had explosive diarrhea and made it to the toilet. He was wearing a hoodie that day and had it tied around his waist, and he rushed to sit down on the toilet seat, and he didn't get everything pulled down, and the hoodie this one's hard for me to read. The hoodie caught almost all of his diarrhea. What the hoodie didn't catch was all of the toilet. What the hoodie didn't catch was all over the toilet and the floor and etc. And also dripped down his legs down into his shoes. But he was wearing Crocs and they were easily washable. Thank God. I apologized profusely to the teacher who told me that my son took care of himself and just stood there with the door cracked while he wiped himself down and cleaned himself off. She also handed me tied up grocery bag full of boo-boo stained clothing. When I asked if I needed to go clean the restroom, she told me that someone would take care of it. Luckily, none of his classmates noticed his different clothes, and the teacher told him that he didn't feel well and he needed to go home. I feel so bad for that teacher and custodian. Y'all are the different type of tough. This is public school, and the teachers are definitely not allowed to wipe butts, even when it's an emergency. I don't think they should be doing that even in private school. Anyways, thanks for the laugh. Hope you share my story on the podcast. Feel free to use my name, Amanda. Okay, Amanda, you're just spilling your kid's trauma all over
your poor kid is just sitting there listening to this right now, shitting himself.
No one knew until my mom emailed a very popular podcast.
All right, so we got another one. She didn't say if we could use her name or not, so I won't read it. All right, my 5th grade team did a board games and literature board night for our school auction. One time we had a school auction, right? It was pretty cool. They did the
and you won a trip with Paul Strings?
They did the student artwork, and I was the auctioneer. I was like, who wants this piece of crap? It's not even nice. $1, $1, $1, $1. And like all the teachers did it. It was fun. We had 4 students playing board games, and I made a big snack board. They chose to play the game of life. Have you played the game of life recently?
Not recently, but I did used to enjoy it.
So first off, the game of life, before I read the rest of this, it's a nightmare to play. It's actually not a fun game. All you're doing is spinning, and wherever you land, you're just paying fucking debt, or you're like randomly winning the lotto, or you're like, oh, like I don't have homeowners insurance, so here's $50,000 to my basement flooded. Like, it's just like, it shows you life sucks at an early age, right? So, and then like the cars, I always try to acquire as many kids as possible. That was like the fun part, but like now I'm like, hell fucking no. I don't want 3 seats of cars for kids. Anyway, but so I play with my kids a lot, clearly. They love the game of life. So they chose to play the game of life. We were about 1/4 the way through, and one girl had gotten teacher as her career. No joke. She said, how am I married and I have a kid and I'm a teacher, but I'm still in debt and I have no money? We all looked at her and told her that that's real life. I could not have been a better image of what life as a teacher feels like. Yeah, I mean,
Love that. I love that.
life is a good game to show. I will say, like, it actually showed my kids a little, like, oh, yeah, like, I'm like, you can't. He was like, I want to do this job, whatever it was. And Lucy picked doctor and Lucy made more money. And he was like, well, oh, and I was like, well, you chose not to go to college. Like, cause you start the game. I was like, this is a pretty early on life lesson. Like,
yeah.
But then I'm like trying to explain insurance to them. Like, I can't even explain to my fucking high school students. I'm like, yeah, did you take out car insurance? He's like, what? I'm like, a tree fell on your car. Were you even thinking future? So, but
I actually, maybe I've never played life.
when you do your shows in Newark or Atlantic City or New York City, all these places right around me, you can come over and play life with me and the kids.
Oh, God.
There'll be a
I'll
nightmare.
be the one drinking at the table.
So, all right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy that you're back, Joe.
Don't do any reality TV shows you don't know the plot to, guys. Okay?
Well, I did. Imagine I ended up like Nabui.
Quick story before we end. Your wife and I don't know if I ever told you this. There was a point when you left to go to the Dominican Republic to film The Trust that we were flipping out because we found an article about a Netflix TV show that was coming out around the time that you were gone. And the plot of this TV show, I think it was actually, we found out about
show.
It was Gabe's show. And all we read about it and all we could find out about it is that they dropped people off in the jungle and you had to like find your way back to a mansion. And Melissa was flipping out. She's like, he's hypoglycemic. He's going to die in the jungle. We have 2 little kids. And I was just like, Melissa, they're not going to let him die in the jungle. If it gets bad, they'll like, just like Survivor when they're like, you're tapped out. Like that's what they'll do. It's going to be fine. But we thought for sure that that's the show you were on. And I was like, I can't picture him like lurking through the jungle.
Oh, I would have been great. I wish it was like that. Do you know, we actually watched Naked and Afraid last night, which we haven't watched in a while.
Crazy.
What a good show.
Great show. Great show. They get ticks
like,
all under their nuts and stuff. It's crazy.
Well, they were like building this fire. You had to see, she was like, they built like a covering over the fire, right? He built like a stick one. Then they're like, oh, let's go get moss to cover up all the gaps. Then put leaves, then put mud. And they like legit made a house. And then they were like showing how miserable they were in the cold. And I was like to Melissa, I was like, isn't it wild to think that for thousands of years, this is straight up how people lived? Like people just were like, hey, let's survive till tomorrow. Like, and that's why like when she was pregnant, she would complain. I'm like, the fucking cave people were literally outside fucking hunting saber-tooths. You're crying about little, uncomfortable bed. The baby will be fine. You don't want parenting advice from me.
Followers, you guys. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening.
Just kidding. I told her I love you so much. Can I rub your legs now?
Can't wait to see you. Get tickets to come see me live at thejoedombrowski.com
or Gasparandazzo.com.
Bye guys.
Bye guys.